can the religions bring themselves up to date for a world that their authors didn't know anything about either?
Oh, man, that makes me sick to my stomach. It's so frustrating, man. So close, but so far. Bret Weinstein recently said in the podcast that atheism has failed the West and Christianity is what the West needs. And though I love that comment, he is so close, but so far at the same time, because what he says later just drives me crazy. Let's talk about it. More and more in society has been playing out, especially Western culture. People have been realizing the value for Christianity, and a lot of them have decided to fully embrace Christianity by realizing that Christianity works like no other system. But some of them are still hanging on to Western culture enough that they are not embracing Christianity, and this is a great example of this. This is on the Dad Saves America YouTube channel, Bret Weinstein and his wife, Heather Heying.
The re-embrace of religion makes a tremendous amount of sense. We are so far off track, and it's so obvious. And atheism has something to do with that. I don't think atheism is the cause, but it took the safety off the gun. And civilization has now run away into this hyper-novelty spiral that it's literally destroying us. You can see the individuals are not well. The civilization is not well. This is going to end badly.
If you don't know what he means by hyper-novelty spiral, I'm pretty sure what he means is like new is best, basically, is kind of what our society is doing in terms of moral issues and ideas and practices. And that is not the way it works. And that's not something that religion ever really promotes, that new is best. It is best is best.
It is absolutely natural. And I would imagine that if we had the ability to look back into history with sufficient resolution, we would see that there is a retreat into orthodoxy at the point that you find that your civilization has gone nuts. And I think even in what little I understand of the sacred texts, this is discussed, right? That, Sodom and Gomorrah are something, and the idea is there's something to retreat to when a civilization has lost its mind. So it's not surprising that we would see this re-embrace of these ancient traditions. Here's the part that's going to be a stretch. We can't do it, and we must do it. Right? We have to get out of this spiral. We absolutely have to. It may well be that the best tools we have are ancient wisdom patterns that our ancestors knew, but we can't return to them because we don't live in their world. And that's the problem. So really, I think the question is, can we embrace the need to retreat from our hurtling into chaos? And can the religions figure out how to, I wish I had a better word than modernize, but can the religions bring themselves up to date for a world that their authors didn't know anything about either?
Oh, man, that makes me sick to my stomach. It's so frustrating, man. So close, but so far. Such a smart person like him is seeing the writing on the wall, which is atheism has failed us. Secularism has failed us. We have the worst version of the world that we have had in a long time since Western culture has really been a thing. And the secularism of it has been objectively terrible for basically all of us. And so a grounding thing like religion is what made it great. Something like Christianity has made it great. For him to say, now we can't, though, go back to Christianity, which is what made the society great, and we can't continue to move forward into atheism, which is what made the society terrible. Instead, what we should do is modernize, for lack of a better term, religion, the thing that made it great. And modernize, I don't hear modernize as much as I hear water down. That is exactly what has led into all of the problems that we have today with the watering down of religion. People didn't want that. And not only did people not want that, but you combine that with the opposition to religion, especially with people like in New Atheism, the Dawkins, the Hitchens, people like that. When you combine those two things, religion became more and more watered down, more and more superficial, more and more weak and pointless, that it pushed people into secularism. And so the way to go back, clearly, as he knows, is to embrace religion, but he doesn't want to embrace religion. And the last thing he said is absolutely insane to me. This is something that boggles my mind, how people could say the only real thing that has worked for us is Christianity. And so therefore, to save society, let's remake Christianity in our own image for this reason.
I wish I had a better word than modernize. But can the religions bring themselves up to date for a world that their authors didn't know anything about either?
Their authors didn't know anything about this world? Are you kidding me? See, this is the thing. This is where I start to get so frustrated with people like Bret Weinstein, who in this sense is kind of on my team here, where he understands that where things are going is really bad. But this is where I get so frustrated with this, where he goes, they didn't know anything about the world. So what do you think? They just got lucky? They accidentally, luckily, when these principles started to be applied in grand fashion and faithful fashion, they just got lucky that everything turned out good? What are you trying to call people back to? You're trying to call them back to something that they didn't intend anyway, which was a watered down version of Christianity. You really think they just got lucky? And that the answer to this is to pick and choose what part of Christianity, religion you want? You really think that's what's going to make things better? The picking and the choosing, the watering down brought us to this point. This is a point I've been making for so long now, that the fact that Christianity works is a clear testament to the reality of it. It is not the end-all be-all for proving that Christianity, or making the ultimate case that Christianity is the best, that Christianity is what we should follow, that Christianity is true. No, but it is certainly a massive part of the conversation. The fact that it works, it's just so much hubris for you to say, because you're an evolutionary biologist and because you're so educated and so smart in the modern era, and a lot of people look up to you, so much hubris for you to say that you really understand the world and they didn't, when you didn't see this coming up until about several years ago. 7-8 years ago is when the stuff started to happen to him at Evergreen University. And they, living so much longer ago, a couple thousand at least years ago, when they understood how the world should work and what are the grounding principles that matter most about society. But no, they don't really know what they're talking about. I do. So now let's create something completely different, which is neither Christianity, neither what we're doing today. Let's mix those two things together. You modernize Christianity. We try to use the parts of Christianity that we like to ground us as a society. That's not going to work. It's not going to work.
And that is not an easy trick to do, because when
Of course not. Of course it's not. It's a ridiculous thing to try to do.
Look back at an ancient religious text, which we regard as the product of evolution, right? It is a compendium of wisdom that was built by an evolutionary force that pruned the wheat from the chaff.
Used a Bible term there.
It is not up to date to modern circumstances.
It's not up to date to modern circumstances? Then why are you saying we should go back to it? Again, they talk out of both sides of their mouth, and I'm getting fired up right now about the issue, not against him necessarily or people who think like him, but you've got to realize you were talking out of both sides of your mouth when you say they didn't understand how the world worked. It's just a compendium of wisdom by a bunch of people who lived a long time ago before science was real. It was really a good thing, and they really were very advanced. They didn't know all that stuff. They didn't even know what germs were back then, is what they say, which again, the hubris of that. But then he says, we should go back to that because that will save society. Why would we go back to that if they didn't know what they were talking about?
That said, there's nobody on earth who can look at those texts and say, here's the part that's still relevant as written. Here's the part that's relevant, but it's written in such a way that you'll derive the wrong lesson from it. And here's the part that has become toxic because the new circumstances are radically different from the old ones. There's nobody on earth who can do that job. It's Chesterton's fence all the way down. And so when you're faced with that puzzle, we have to agree on some fundamentals. We have to agree on what the objective of the exercise is, right? I would argue the most fundamental objective, we don't go extinct. Second most fundamental, we liberate people meaningfully as much as possible. Beyond that, there are a lot of questions about what structures are net positive, what structures are net negative, and there's no ancient tradition that's up to the challenge as written. If we can all see that, if we can understand that you can't go back, you can go some degree back, some places, yes, some places, no. We are going to go forward, one way or the other. And we have a lot of control over whether we go forward into hell or we go forward through the adaptive valley into some better future that we can't really envision from here. If we understand that that's the puzzle, and we are careful about our embrace of tradition, recognizing that it's a natural moment for that to be arising, then there's a lot of hope. But if we're going to embrace the orthodoxy without recognizing that it's not a good fit for the 21st century, if we're going to abandon it and hurtle headlong, I don't see much of a future for humanity, I think.
The orthodoxy is not a good fit for 21st century. You know what's not a good fit for 21st century? It's the stuff that we're doing now. It's the stuff that you're decrying constantly. It's the stuff that's making you and your brother Eric want to vote for Trump when you never would have considered that in the past. That's the stuff that is not good for the 21st century. Again, talking out of both sides of his mouth. Those ancient traditions, the compendium of wisdom, those are great things for society. We need to go back to that, but we can't go back to that too far because they also didn't know what they were talking about. For him to look at that, the one system that has ever worked, show me anything that has worked like Judeo-Christian morals and ethics. Show me anything that has worked like that. For him to look at that stuff and go, but we can't go back to that. I can't sign on to all of that. And we also can't go forward either the way we're going right now. And so what we should do is do the very thing that brought us to this where we are today, which is not real Christianity, not a real grounded form of Christianity, not a real grounded form of objective morals and values. No, and we should do that. You'll just end up back here. He is appealing to ignorance and he is appealing to an inability to understand because he says, who is going to be the person who comes and interprets everything of the Bible and says, this is the part that we keep, this is the part that we leave out. That's what he was just saying a little bit earlier. Who's going to say this part is still relevant for us today and this part is no longer relevant for us today because if we did this today, it wouldn't be a good idea because then we'd all be pro-life or something like that. Who's going to be the person? And so therefore, since there is no person who's going to have that much knowledge to tell us what part to leave out and what part to continue to believe in, therefore we can't do that. We can't just go fully back to the Bible and do what the Bible says. The problem with that thinking is that he thinks that the right idea is to pick and choose what is in the Bible. Maybe by taking it all as it is and seeking to understand that and embrace that and trusting in the ability of it to work in a society. He's acting like there is no good future wherein the applying of Christianity on a consistent basis is good for society. But at the very same time, that's what he wants to go back to. But let me know what you think. Am I wrong about this? It just seems like he is talking out of both sides of his mouth. Do I not understand it? Let me know what you think. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, consider supporting on Patreon, and please share this video with somebody else. Best way you can support the channel with that. And of course, again, through the Patreon, the link for that is in the description below. You get a longer version of this video. You get a weekly Q&A. You get to suggest videos and have a priority on that suggestion list. Let me know what you think. I love you. God bless you. I'll talk to you soon. Goodbye.